I'm Ffriends, and welcome back to my channel where I chat media and life motivation, all with a dash of style. And today, y'all, we are on the couch. This is Couch Potato, where I'll be chatting about the latest episode of Married at First Sight. Before I do that, though, I do want to highlight, obviously my last episode or last video that I uploaded was my interview with Pastor Cal. I got a lot of great DMs on my Instagram, a lot of, obviously shout outs here and there about the episode. So I'm so glad you guys liked it. And if you didn't see it yet or watch it yet, definitely check it out. Pastor Cal was dropping some gems, y'all, as he always does on Married at First Sight. But I feel like this interview was another level of that because it was obviously getting very in-depth about his latest book that is out that you guys should check out. And it's open. I did ask the question, listen, it's a marriage book. Can single folks enjoy this as well? And he definitely made sure that yes, you can. Anyone that wants a significant and fulfilling relationship, period. It's a book that y'all should definitely spend a little bread on. So definitely check that out. I linked it and everything in that last video, or made more details in that last video. He mentioned that the book is available anywhere books are sold. But we talked about that. We talked about all the couples in Married at First Sight based on the latest episode that we seen at that time of the interview, which I think was episode 7 or so. So we got pretty far. It was pretty far in depth before we did that interview. It was after I think the couples officially moved in, or right before the couples moved in, one of the two. But it was a really good, really in-depth episode, and I just love the fact that I was able to interview one of the relationship experts. You know, the fact that I'm doing this video week after week, or most weeks, I should say. I know I missed last week, but most weeks shows that I'm really, interested in the show and really interested in what all the couples are going through and what that might mean for everyone in the greater scheme of things. And so, yes, check it out. Just wanted to plug that. The other thing I want to plug before we get into episode 9 is what I'm wearing. It says, "You're welcome, sincerely, a Black creator." This is merch that I've launched with my co-host for a separate show that I do called the Black Creators Club. So it's also, we post episodes also on YouTube. So check out that YouTube page, the Black Creators Club, for more deets. But this is our first merch that is out. You can definitely order your pair, and I will link it also below. But this is a great, I think it's just listen, telling folks, especially in this climate, Black creators deserve their due. And so when it comes to starting the culture, when it comes to just elevating their thoughts and putting our ideas out into the ecosphere and making sure that we're getting recognized for it. And so that can be obviously in entertainment and video creation and everything, but also just general creators when it comes to folks who invented ice cream, the traffic light, et cetera, et cetera. This is just really a kind of sassy way to say, hey, y'all, we are the trend starters, and we love obviously contributing to the greater sphere of creativity, and we just want a little credit for that. So again, the merch will be listed down below, but thanks in advance for your support there. All right. I feel like I have plugged everything else. This was a little mini commercial, it felt like, but let's get into the reason that y'all are tuning into this episode, and that's to talk about the latest Married at First Sight that came out. I thought to myself, oh my gosh, it's Sunday, Monday. Should I still post, or should we just wait until, the next episode comes out? But I'm like, no, consistency is key. And even though we ain't consistent yet on these days, we are getting there. At the very least, I want to make sure that folks who tune in, I do appreciate it. And I do love this community that we're slowly forming. So I'm going to show up for y'all, and we're going to make this episode happen. All right. And so this one that I'm talking about is called, it's from their episode 9, Could This Be Love? And so this is the latest episode again, Married at First Sight, where some of the couples were delving into whether or not they're on the track for love. Is this something that's real for them, etc., etc. So let's go to the first couple, Brett and Ryan, who I keep saying I call the notebook couple, but now I'm feeling like, are they even worthy of the term? I do not know. Because we're seeing during this episode that Brett and Ryan were very much still cute, going through the motions, but they started to play this Jenga game, and I was cringing when I saw what Brett did, which is like, she made all the things that she liked about Ryan on these cards. And so while they were playing Jenga, like pulling the blocks out, plopping it on top, Ryan would then read one of the things that Brett wrote about him. And so, for instance, it would be like, oh, I like that you're, I forget some of the things that she said, like, oh, I like that you're courageous, for instance. That's not exactly what she said, but that would be an example. Or I like that you're confident and whatever. And I'm just like, I have never been so like forthcoming with the compliments if I know they're not coming back. You know what I mean? Like, I would say what I feel like someone has to be the vulnerable one, but it's not going to keep going if I feel like you're not reciprocating this. And I'm like, the fact that I made these cards, I'm putting myself in Brett's situation, that I made these cards and I know Ryan did not make one back, or even if he didn't make one, like, I'm saying it and he's not, and as we're playing the game, it's not like he's saying something about me. I'll be like, all right, rip the rest of this stuff up. We just gonna put this to the side. Let's just play the game, because clearly you're not at that same level. And that's exactly what he shared, like on the information or the confessional. He was kind of like, he does not want to say anything that he doesn't yet feel or place himself in that predicament, which I understand. But I feel like Brett is throwing it all out there, and there's little to no, like, just really processing the fact that, hey, this guy is just not that into you yet. He may get there, but he's not there yet. I don't know if pulling it all out there up front, I was just awkward. I just felt so awkward listening or like watching the scene, and I'm thinking to myself, why is Ryan not awkward? Like, why he was comfortable reading these things out and didn't say or do anything back. And I'm just kind of like, what kind of guy is this? Like, I know you don't know where your head is at yet with her, but do you not feel at least somewhat inclined to not pacify the situation or not just tell her things just to tell her things, but at the very least to feel like, you know what, I know I'm not fully there to write a whole deck of shit that I like, deck of things that I like about Brett, but at the very least I can compliment her and her willingness to put herself out there and try, especially knowing that clearly if this is something that Brett is doing for you, wouldn't you kind of like be empathetic enough to recognize, oh, this is something that she would like as well? Like, I did not get it, but I was kind of like, oh, this is an awkward Jenga game. I have never, like, honestly, they should have just played with drinks and called it a day, because that would have been, I think, more of a fun way to just kind of just have fun together, gain a new experience, and not have to delve into the fact that there's no mutual reciprocation. So, and I think going off that, Brett really explained that she needs mutual reciprocation in order to be in love. Like, there was a scene later on with a lot of the couples where they all went for Jose's barbecue at his house that he just loves. So went to the barbecue, and Brett was talking to some of the folks. She was talking to Jose and Gil, and just talking to them about the fact that, she needs to hear what Ryan feels. And she needs that mutual reciprocation, because it's not going to be like this consistently, which I think is perfectly understandable. But on Ryan's end, we recognize that he doesn't think he's there, and I don't know if Brett feels open or comfortable or willing enough to just accept that, or at least open up that can of worms and just like make sure that she knows that she's reading this energy and she is seeing this. I hope that happens in the next episode or so, because I feel like it's not okay for one person to be more there than the other, especially when the one person is showing it so consistently. And I, as Ryan, would feel very awkward. So I'm honestly very perturbed that he doesn't seem to feel any sort of way besides saying, like, I may not be there, but if she want to do all this stuff, like, have at it. Another thing that happened, or that was revealed, is that Ryan gets invested later, like during the end of his previous relationships, versus like quick fire, or at least like mid, a normal cycle when you start to get really, really into it. And he mentioned that a lot of his exes would run out of patience because he doesn't open up or feel invested enough soon enough. I was kind of like, wait, what? This is a different story than what I felt like we got at the beginning. From his family and from just kind of like how he was portrayed in the first couple of episodes, and which is why I called them the Notebook couple. They made it seem like he falls in love rapid fire. He falls in love all the time. Like he's always love, 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 love. He's always into it. That's what we heard from Brett too. And so far she's showing herself to really be that type of person. But I was very surprised that now they're saying Ryan doesn't, invest early enough, or it takes a while for him to finally feel that warm and fuzzy feeling, finally feel very much invested, because I'm like, this does not match up to what we were told earlier. And I'm wondering if it's true or if it's strictly Brett that he's just not feeling like that. And he doesn't want to make it seem like it's a her thing and wants to make it seem like, no, this is how I am with everybody. Because when we first got him, it was as if he fell in love super quick. And I'm just interested to see if he will get there, because I do think he is a little closed off, at least from what's shown on camera. Who knows outside of this if they have actual deep conversations, but it does seem very still not as quite surface level as it felt those first couple of episodes as compared to some of the other couples, but it still does feel like they're not progressing. Or, I see the warm and fuzzy feelings that Brett is starting to feel for Ryan, but I'm questioning I'm like, why, sis? why do you feel these things when it from what I see, it doesn't seem to me that Ryan is into this. It's very interesting. And I wonder, like, we already know that they have lifestyle differences, that they have obviously political differences. They just have a lot of like compatibility, like I guess philosophy of life type differences. But I don't think that's enough to say like, this is something that couldn't work. And so I'm still holding out hope for them. But at the same time, I just feel like they are super vanilla right now. And I don't know how they can get to that next level of intimacy, recognizing that Brett is super open, but Ryan right now was just still very cautious about her for his own reasons, which he is allowed to be cautious and is allowed to be a little bit, about. But I don't know if this is a couple that would really just get over the hump. And the reason why too, I think, is because they have different feelings about what it means to really like catch feelings and eventually be in love. Like, again, at the cookout, Brett was obviously noticing that some of the other couples had more intimacy. Like, the camera people, of course, like captured that a lot of the couples had their hands on different folks' knees and things of that nature. But, Brett and Ryan were still, very chummy. Like, I noticed that his hand was like kind of around her chair, kind of like this, but I didn't really see much else. And obviously Brett was kind of taking that to heart too. She seems very sensitive to those types of things. And what I recognize that Brian said, he said he's waiting for a feeling. It's just a feeling that I guess you get. And Brett is saying, no, you got to put in the work to get that feeling. And I kind of agree with both. Like, what do you think? Do you think it's just a feeling that you get? Or do you feel like you have to put in the work to get that feeling, as what Brett is saying? Like, comment below. For me, what I would say, you got to put in the work to maintain that feeling. But I do think it is a feeling that you just get. I do think it's a feeling that you get, a feeling that you probably choose to get. And I think Brett is choosing to feel that feeling. Ryan is probably choosing not to feel it initially. But then I think you have to put in the work to maintain that feeling, to ignite that feeling, to make it so much more of a thing, of an importance in your relationship, in your connection to the next person. But I do kind of feel like there's got to be some sort of like spark. And I think that's kind of what Ryan is saying, that he does not feel a spark, because this is obviously, they were married at first sight. They were matched together. But still you can feel that with and I think a lot of different couples have, but you however faint that spark might be, you do have to put in that work to make it grow. And I feel like Ryan just wants it to be there, and may have wanted it to be there with a lot of his other relationships. And clearly, sir, it's not there immediately. If you're feeling it in these past relationships later on in the game, that means you put in the work to finally get to that place. And by that time, they're like, well, I had it all along. And now it's kind of grown into a feeling of resentment and not wanting to be a part of this anymore because it seemed like it took you so long to finally see me, you know? So I don't know, this couple is getting a little more interesting than I thought. You know, in previous episodes, previous videos that I uploaded, I was kind of like, you know, skipping over this couple almost because I'm like, what are they really going through? What are they actually saying? Are they each actually trying? And I think this was the first episode that I saw that they both are actually trying. They both are actually trying to figure out, like, how can this relationship work for me? Brett is obviously putting herself super out there, but Ryan is also very much like, man, I want this, but I don't know how to feel about this, which I can respect. Now, let's talk about Gil and Myrla, or Myrla, I should say. This couple is so, you know, I've been obviously seeing different reviews and takes on different people and how they feel about each couple. And Myrla has been getting a bad rep on the internet. And I understand, to be honest. I do understand why. Yes, she's very much like, she's not superficial, but she's definitely materialistic and she loves nice things. And honestly, I've never had a problem with Myrla because of that. I'm kind of just like, she knows what she wants and this is what she likes and she's doing it for herself. It'd be one thing if she came into this relationship with, you know, Crocs and she's expecting Louboutins. You know, it would be one thing if that was her situation, but she came in with those Louboutins. She came in with the Fendi. She came in with her designer bag. Okay, she came in like this, and it's like she just wants to maintain her lifestyle. She just wants to maintain who she is and what she finds valuable, which I do, you know, have a certain level of empathy and respect for. Obviously, she'd be taking it overboard, and that's the issue. It's like, where is the compromise? Where's the, okay, like, there's certain things now that you're with someone else that you do have to take into account, especially recognizing his livelihood and what he finds super important. And I think in this episode too, it started to make itself apparent that Gil also notices that, because he always made digs. Oh, how many bags you have, how many shoes, how much you spent this month or that month. He's always made like little funny remarks that, you know, isn't all that funny if I was on the receiving end of that consistently. But he did always make note of it. But this episode, particularly the brunch conversation, which we'll get to, is when I finally recognized, no, Gil, I've always started to see that he had like a backbone and he will stand up for himself and all of that. But this was that moment for me that I recognized, oh, this is going to be contentious. This is actually going to be a problem. But before all that, we started seeing this couple. The first kind of take this episode on this couple was when Myrla was talking to Rachel. They were just, you know, hanging out in their apartment. And Myrla mentioned that Gil gave her a plastic ring since she works out a lot. And I guess, you know, having that ring on her finger might have just been more uncomfortable than what it needs to be. And Rachel mentioned like, oh my gosh, that's really romantic. Like, he found this plastic ring for you, or I guess on Amazon, so that you can still work out while still maintaining the fact like, hey, you're married, and thinking about that whole thing. And Myrla was like, listen, I don't really know if it's romantic, but this is what he did. And I think this is one of those situations, or an example of her levels and her expectations are just very different. High, low, medium, we can debate that all day, but it's really different because, you know, yeah, maybe at first glance you're not probably seeing the romantic level of it all, but I think too it reveals a sense of entitlement and a sense of expectation, because he doesn't need to do any of this. Like, you know, yes, on paper they're married, husband and wife, all of this, but y'all are still getting to know each other. Myrla makes it very apparent that they are still strangers, getting to know each other. So with that, there are levels to this. You know, he does not need to do all of that. He did not even need to get you. He could have told you, hey, you know, how about you get that? How about you get a plastic ring? You know, that could have been his contribution. But no, he went out and got it himself. And I think that shows a level, it does show a level of, like, I guess, interest in the partner and wanting to provide and take care. Yes, it's just a plastic ring from Amazon. Like, I'm not gonna go to Rachel Stanton and say, oh my gosh, this was so romantic, thank you so much. Like, I understand that it's not gonna bring tears to your eyes, but at the same time, there's a level of romance there. There's a level of appreciation that should be there. And I think on Myrla's end, it started to show a trend that I saw this episode finally, I guess certain people might say, of entitlement, that never really goes over super well, because then those little things that someone does will stay little or are diminished to none at all, versus going from little to bigger things, because they don't recognize, at least Gil, I would think, if I was Gil, I would start to see, like, well, what's the point of me doing any of this if I know I'm always going to be criticized or not fully appreciated at the level that I think I should be. Another example of how that happened or showed itself this episode was with the whole massage. It was with the massage. I was like, Myrla, just enjoy the massage. So Gil decided to rub Myrla's feet one night, got, you know, some lotion out, and it's awkward watching it, but I guess in the moment, you know, it could have been cool. He got the lotion out, and literally, you know, she's laying on the bed, and he grabs her feet, and he's starting to massage it, looking into her eyes, like starting to, you know, trying to, I guess, build some sort of sensual intimate moment. And I was just like, oh my gosh, Myrla is on her phone, laying back, not really engaging in the moment, probably choosing not to, because perhaps she doesn't actually feel it and is not saying it to everyone. But there can also just be, like, again, that entitlement piece where it's just like, is this something that he should just be doing? Or do you feel that, oh, this was a nice thing for him to do, let me acknowledge that? And I didn't see that at all. So much so that she went on the confessionals and said, like, you know, I will rate, or even probably to him to his face, I have to see where she said that, but Myrla rated his massage a 5 out of 10, a 5 out of 10. And it just came off very, very much that Myrla is hard to please. And this is something that we've kind of gotten ideas of. And like I said beforehand, I was very much like, no, she just likes what she likes when it comes to the materials, and she can afford what she likes. She can afford her lifestyle, and she really worked to get there. So I was like, yo, like, let her live, right? But it's these moments that's not monetary based, you know, the plastic ring, the massage, you know, and her not really engaging with him and not really showing a level of appreciation and just intimacy with him. It started to make me think, like, oh no, he is going to start to resent this woman. He is going to see that she is so hard to please, and it's not a joke anymore. It's not funny anymore, because now he's on the receiving end of that lack of acknowledgement and that lack of love, right? So I don't know how that's gonna go, but this is the first episode where I'm like, oh, now I'm starting to see what folks are saying. And I wonder if this is just like a situation where she is just not that into him. You know, I know she says it takes a long time for her, but everything about that process, this married at first process, is so accelerated. So there's a part of me that's just kind of like, is this a situation where you're just gonna drag this out because it just takes a long time, or are you truly not that into him? Do you see him as a friend, someone that you can be cool with, but you don't really feel that spark that we're talking about with Ryan and Brett, and because of that you're choosing to, like, let me distance myself when he rubs my feet because I don't want to make this seem awkward, because I don't want this man on my feet, or, you know, I don't really care for this plastic ring or not because it's not, you know, what I would wear anyway with this guy. Like, I wonder if that's part of the reason, or if it's just, like, again, the entitlement piece. Another thing that she said that I thought was interesting This episode was that Myrla said that she doesn't know when she'll make that choice to fall in love. Again, she sees it as a choice. She sees love as something that you decide to do. Like, she is deciding to put a wall between her and Gil. And it may not be like, we're not talking about a concrete wall or anything. It might be a little, see-through fence. But at the end of the day, there's something that she's deciding to put there because she did not make that choice in her head yet, that this is something that she wants to do. And I feel like, again, it might be honestly a Ryan situation. When you finally decide to make that choice, Gil might be out the door, because it's not only you in this situation. Again, it's like, you can't be entitled, you can't be selfish about this. It's not only you here. And so if someone is consistently feeling like, I'm not getting what I need, I'm putting myself out there, even the little things that I do is being judged to this high regard, because you're not there yet and you have not made that choice yet. When you finally do, you're taking that gamble that the other person is going to be clocked out already. It's going to be very much over it. And I think this is the situation that she is under. She mentioned later on in the episode, Myrla mentioned later on in the episode after, which I thought was hilarious, after going to the cookout with Jose, at Jose's house, and kind of just being like, listen, I haven't been to a barbecue in like 3 years since she moved to Texas, and this will probably be the last time I'm at Jose's house. She mentioned like she doesn't go to people's houses, and again, first of all, it's so on brand. Myrla is, if anything, you are on brand, sis. Like, you are. And I think that, listen, that's valid. There's certain people that just do not, I have people that I know personally that just hates the idea of going to people's homes, of doing that whole thing. And it's just something people like, some people don't like. But I thought that was hilarious that she was literally so upfront to say, this is probably going to be the last time I'm here. This is just not what I do. And it's in the middle of nowhere, and I'm not really into the whole barbecue scene. But even afterwards, like, one of the latest pieces in that episode is when she went out with Gil and mentioned that she wants a brunch husband. And I kind of felt what Gil was feeling. I was like, oh, so you just want anybody to just plug and play in your life to do your things how you want it, and it's not really about the other person. He even made a mention to say, when you decided to pick this dinner that we came to, this place, did you do this because you thought I would like it? And I was like, yes, Gil, you know what I'm saying? Like, because at the beginning, I was like, Gil's about to get trampled. Like, I felt like Gil could not handle her at all. But it's coming more and more clear that he is an alpha male. Like, he's nice, but he's not to be taken advantage of. And I think, like, Gil showed himself there. He was like, listen, he's clearly here for Myrla, but at the same time, if he does not feel like he's getting what he needs to get, he's not going to stick around for it. And I appreciate that. Like, because when it came to that question, I was like, yeah, she chose that dinner, that place, because of the cute drinks, which I love, by the way. Great branding. Now I definitely want to, if I'm ever in Texas, I want to go there. But she definitely chose to go there because that's what she wanted to do. And it wasn't really about Gil. It never seems to be really about him. And Gil is really making it clear with this whole brunch husband thing. Like, he wants consistency and he wants to feel wanted. He does not want to be in a situation where he's there because of the thought and the security that might come with being married and having a go-to plus one to do the things that you want to do versus the things that we want to do. And I think he's starting to see what, at the same moment that I started to see it, like, okay, I don't know if Myrla is truly ready for the full aspect of marriage, if she's really ready to change a little bit. Not change herself, I wouldn't say, but at least give a little bit. That's what I should say. She's not ready to fully give, it seems, because I think someone shouldn't have to show their full cards before you show like a card in your deck. And I think with Myrla, she wants Gil to show everything, and show that consistently. And until she's ready to show her card, like, that's one thing, that's a whole other situation. But it's like you want Gil to give, And then finally, you might show a little something, like give him a kiss on the lips versus on the cheek. And it's like, at that point, Gil is probably over it. Like, no, he knows his worth, King. Like, he knows what it is. And so, it's interesting because as I, obviously talked about Gil and Myrla right out after Brett and Ryan, and I think it's the same sort of dynamic with that. Ryan might want Brett to give because of perhaps insecurities that both Ryan and Myrla may have felt in different relationships. And on Brett and Gil's side, it's like, yo, I'm gonna do this, but I'm not gonna do this forever. I had to take a sigh because I know the couple that's coming up next, and I'm just like, oh Lord. Okay, so I think y'all know which couple I'm about to talk about next, but I just want to plug to make sure to like, comment, and subscribe because this is a growing channel and I want to make sure that we do that together. So like, comment, and subscribe to keep up with all things Ffriends. But this couple we gonna get into is Michaela and Zach. I am so sad about them because literally I loved them at the beginning. I was kind of like, ooh, this is gonna be dope. But Michaela proved herself to be a little off the edge, not the rockers or unhinged, but definitely she got her moments. And Zach is showing himself too to be someone that doesn't let things go very easily. This was not a thing that I'm saying like, oh, he should just forget. I mean, Michaela literally packed all her things and left within the first few hours of him just not responding to a text, and then also decided to try to cancel the housewarming type of friends visit last minute, even though they ended up doing something, but she tried to do that too. So Zach is definitely valid for feeling a little bit more on the fence, but at the same time, he seems a person that seems very much like, no, I'm going to harp on the fact that I do not feel okay about this, and I have to keep saying it because I want to make sure that I'm getting heard, and I want to make sure that, I don't know, just perhaps he's just super analytical, and it's just like, okay, dude, we get it. You're not feeling okay, but it's like he can't let that go. But this episode really showed that they are at least trying to make things work. Michaela, we find out, tells Zach not to call her, to text her instead, after Zach decides after their housewarming that he was going to go back to his place and stay the night there. I'm like, this is Michaela being petty again, not dealing with whatever feelings that she needs to actually work out in therapy or the like. And it's a lot. It seems like it's about to be an emotional roller coaster that is just on its first loop. It has more twists and turns to come when it comes to this relationship. It's so obvious that this is not the last time that some petty BS is going to happen. But that was weird. I was like, Michaela, that was weird. I think every single thing that he does, if he shows any bit of little defiance or somewhat of let me protect myself, is taken to that extreme because she is insecure about, not necessarily about herself. Oh my gosh, she's an insecure woman. I wouldn't say that, but I do think there's some insecurities there that is showcasing itself throughout this whole marriage process for her that she may have not even realized she had, and now is having to deal with. And it's tough to kind of have that all bubble to the surface on top of going through this very much scary process. And so, I'm not harping down on her. I'm not trying to be like, oh girl, you crazy or whatever. No, that's not it. But at the same time, let's just be real about the situation. I think she does need some work, before really being able to truly assess this marriage for what it is. I think they both need some individual work. But because they are on the show, we gonna go ahead and talk about them anyway and really dive deep. So one of the things that they did was go to dinner together, and Zach revealed that he had this checklist, and Michaela was curious about okay, well, what's on this checklist that is what was on your checklist that I should know about? Because obviously I think if someone says that they have a checklist, the first thing I would think about too is okay, what's on it? Let me see what is really me and what are some things that, man, maybe I don't fit this mold for this guy. And Married at First Sight, again, they being shady, they kind of listed all the things that he said, which I honestly thought was very much still overarching. It's not super specific to say like he has this long list. Like for instance, he said looks, he said ambitious, he said intelligent, he said that person needs to be someone that he can trust, his honesty, loyal, you know, and then he also mentioned the maturity in conflict resolution. I'm like, this is what I mean with Zach. I'm like, he is going to drive a message home. He is not going to just let it ride a little bit, because clearly they've had like multiple disagreements, multiple conversations about how they each handle conflict. And I think it was valid for them to have these discussions, but I feel like the discussion was discussed, right? Like I feel like they've already talked about the whole maturity and conflict resolution, but he made sure he was giving this list to her, to Michaela. Zach was like, I'm gonna put this on here just so you know just how serious I am about the fact that maturity and conflict resolution is something that I need. I do not want to deal with these outbursts again. And so he made sure to say that. And she honestly took the list, and it wasn't a blow up or anything, but clearly she took the list and she's like, okay, look, this is kind of what he likes. Something that I thought at least was good to see is that post the dinner and post them just going out, they seem to both agree that they are on a path moving forward. Like they can make something work. And I feel that way too. I think it's very, obviously, it's not super volatile. It's not like, ooh, this is a toxic relationship of sorts. I don't feel that. But I do think if they just lessen up on the drama, ease up on the drama a little bit, they can really start to build something great. And so one example of them at least trying that during this episode was that they also, Zach planned this Zoom cooking class for Michaela and him to do. And they both, I was like, oh, I was so disappointed they both could not cook. That shrimp scampi that they made, I was like, oh, I don't know about that. But they had fun doing it. They like literally shared jokes about each other. Obviously, like Michaela's seasoning, and Zach was like, oh, I don't know if this is something you're gonna be doing from here on out. They seem to at least have fun with each other doing activities, which is all part of the gig, right? You want to have fun, you want to have a good time, you want to do things together, and they both acknowledge that they do have fun doing that. I thought it was also interesting at the cookout, like Michaela made it a point to really mention to some of the girls that she was talking to, like, no, Zach is really like the epitome of the guy that I would want, right? And I was kind of like, okay, sis, I want her to start acting like it. You know what I mean? I don't want her to self-sabotage and sabotage the situation. If this is someone that you can truly see yourself with. Because right now, they haven't had the best start and a fair shake when it comes to us as viewers getting really involved in and really like loving them as a unit and as a couple, because obviously, you know, Zach had COVID at the beginning, and then, you know, Michaela had that blow up, and now they're just kind of getting it back to their starting ground. And so I feel like I still don't really can't fully place this couple yet, you know. Individually at the very beginning, like I said, I really loved Michaela. Still think Zach is fine AF. So it's one of those situations now where I'm just still trying to figure out, like, who is this? What is this couple's identity? You know what I mean? And we are, like I said, 9 episodes in. So I'm curious to see how this pans out. But if she says this is her ideal guy, I just want things to start flowing in their favor, because clearly they both wanted this, and they both are, like, I think they're a good looking match, you know? So this could be something good. The next couple that we gotta talk about, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is our 4th couple, and there's a good chunk of stuff that happens every week on these episodes. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're only up to Bao and Johnny, but we gotta give it up for my Vietnamese faves. They are super cute when they want to be together. Bao and Johnny. So we started off with feeling like, oh man, I don't know how this is gonna go, how this as a couple is gonna be. Like, Johnny made sure that he shared that, you know, he feels, Bao doesn't really ask him how he's feeling. Like, they were having dinner together, and he kind of opened up about that. But Bao really opened up too, and she was saying that she does try to share how she's feeling, but feels that Johnny gets aggressive and gets a little defensive. And even in her saying that, I saw Johnny react very much, not aggressively as to say, but definitely defensively, like, oh, you don't ask me about me. You don't ask me about how I'm feeling. Why are you making these assumptions? And I don't think that was fair for Johnny to say, to be honest, because if I'm Bao and I'm in a situation where multiple times now, not only to me, but to our mutual married at first sight friends, you have made it a point to say that you don't know. You have made it a point to say that you are unsure. And as Bao said, these words linger, you know? And so if I was Bao, I would start feeling a little bit like, how much should I really give? How much should I really like share? How much should I really ask? Because if I'm asking, I have to be ready to receive. And do I constantly want to feel and receive that someone is unsure about me? No. Okay, I'm not going to keep asking you. So I do understand Bao's predicament there. And obviously, Bao and Johnny have shown themselves to be very much overthinkers, very much particular, but in different ways. Like, you know, Bao probably the things that she does, but Johnny and the things that he feels and the things that he says. And particularly in this relationship and in this ongoing marriage, Johnny has proven himself to be someone that feels up and down and shares the process, his thinking consistently. When he's up, he would share that, but also when he's down and when he's unsure about Bao, he would share that too. I think, as Bao was saying in the beginning of this episode, that words linger, and so everything that you're feeling, feel it. You have the right to feel it, but you don't have to say it all the time. Particularly, you don't have to say it to the person that you're feeling X or Y, Z thing about, because yeah, you might want to get things off your chest, but where does it go? You know, energy transfers. And so when you're saying something off your chest and you want to be honest and vulnerable, recognize the repercussions of that when you're consistently doing that to your partner versus having some other outlet potentially, or, you know, processing it on your own, being very much individual about that sometimes too. And yeah, I get that. To be honest, I get Bao's feeling in those situations. Like, you know, if someone is unsure about you, it makes the whole situation a little bit more tense. Not even tense, but it brings uncertainty about everything. You're kind of less inclined to ask, to be, you know, witty and fun and carefree, because you're like, no, I don't even know if this person is into this, you know? So it is what it is. But I do also see that Bao and Johnny, they're trying, you know what I mean? They want to get on a common ground. They want to be in the position to fall in love. And it's very clear that they both really want this in their own way. And I thought it really took a crazy turn that I didn't see happening this episode, was that they consummated the marriage. Bao and Johnny consummated the marriage, okay? It's hilarious that it took beer, fried chicken, and bar games to get Johnny riled up, because I thought it was not going to happen this soon because of all those feelings. And to be honest, me as a person, I still have it in the back of my head that, oh wow, Bao doesn't take showers consistently. Like, so that would be enough for me to just kind of like turn this whole thing off. But clearly they're over that in some capacity, or maybe it's not as cut and dry as we think. Oh, take a shower and not. I have no idea, but that's honestly what I think about, and what I thought at first was kind of the underlying reason why Johnny is kind of like not really trying to touch that situation and just was sensitive to her to not share it. But clearly I was wrong, right? Maybe that's not the reason. But they consummated the marriage after a fun night indoors with the bar games. I'm like, this is my type of vibe. Like, it was so fun. Bao even bought, I want to get those darts now. Bao bought a dart that actually, like, instead of just like throwing the dart board there, the dart to the dart board, it was like out of a play gun. And I'm like, that is cool. You know, that was super awesome. So I love that she thought about that and made it a moment. Like, those are the cute, like, kind of over the top things that really showcase that you're listening to someone. Clearly you know what Johnny likes, and so you're gonna do it, and you made it a moment. And what was the effect of that? Obviously, like, Johnny was super into her after that, between that and them playing that couples game that the experts sent them about really figuring out love and their ability to be in love. So I thought that was dope. And what was also cool was that a lot of the couples at Jose's barbecue said that Bao and Johnny would be the first couple to say that they love each other. And so I thought it was cool that a lot of folks mentioned that. And I think a majority of people within that said Johnny would be the first one. So clearly they all recognize that homeboy has his feelings on his sleeve, or at least really is very emotional about this entire process. And so I thought that was cool. And I'm excited to see if they're actually right. I thought Rachel and Jose, which we later find out is true, I thought they would be the first ones. But it was cool that a lot of the couples thought that Bao and Johnny had an equal shot too. One thing that happened that I was kind of like really on Johnny's side about was Johnny then planned a paint night, kind of like a night where they can paint together and, you know, like really just have fun again at home. He got the art supplies, set up the whole situation, set up the painting so that they can just do something together. And the reason he did this is because their whole story about how they would have potentially started dating years ago back in college, but Johnny ghosted Bao. As we all know, because Bao wanted to go to a art museum, mentioned it, and said that she had a +1, wanted someone to go with, really cute curated message. And Johnny was just kind of like, so Johnny didn't take the bait this time, but obviously planned a whole night to kind of just reenact that moment, or what that moment would have been like for them, times 10, by them creating their own art together. But Bao quickly turned this experience that should have been fun, them flirting, talking to each other, just having a good time, to really wanting to execute on this painting. Like, you saw scenes of her being super like anal about like, oh my gosh, is this heart the right way? Is this the right shade? Like, you know, very much like showing herself to be very task oriented and strictly business, instead of being flirtatious and taking, you know, her analytical ways at the moment to really recognize, no, there's a human right next to you who obviously set this up and really wants to have like a cute date night with you. And I think I've started to see what Johnny's hesitation was kind of like off the fact that she just cannot, Bao does not relax. Bao does not relax, because when she does, she's a totally fun person, fun, quirky, like obviously super, you know, attractive in Johnny's eyes, like, but it's like when she does it, when she's super just like in her mind, in her zone, she cannot tap out of that in a way to see the bigger picture. And so, yeah, I was like, oh no, this is the situation that will get Johnny go back to that cycle of overthinking and thinking, is this even something that I want to do? Is this something that I want to make work? But I hope, you know, they kind of get over that. By the end of the painting situation, it seemed like they were back to being a little more flirtatious and fun. But Bao just needs to check herself when it comes to that, so that she doesn't, you know, just have a little more fun in the moment. You don't gotta be super like lax, but at least a little more fun in the moment will go a long way with the both of them, so that they can just enjoy the process of it all. Okay, we are on the last couple. It is Rachel and Jose, y'all. You know, I had to talk about them, and I wanted to just, you know, bring them to the back for good and, you know, bad reasons. So we get into this episode with Rachel and Jose. They were talking about, first, Jose mentioned or pointed out the fact that Rachel, you know, gets the toothpaste from the middle. And now I need to see next time I brush my teeth, like, where do I kind of push the toothpaste up from? Because clearly there is this, you know, funny thing going around, like, okay, if you push it up from the middle, you're definitely a, you know, a serial killer or a sociopath or whatever. So I'm like, I'm curious what that's about. But of course, Jose would notice that about Rachel and point that out, because he is definitely, he the type. But another thing that they did that was so fun and so cute was goat yoga. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know this was a thing, but the goats looked so cute, the baby goats. And Rachel and Jose did it together. And I thought it was such a great example of what Rachel would bring out of Jose, which again goes back to that like fun, loving life, experiencing life, and not being so rigid when it comes to the expense of it all. because this is something that I don't think he would have thought of, to say let's go. And it's not as extravagant of saying, oh my gosh, we gotta go to Bali to do a yoga retreat, but it's at least it's something to showcase, okay, we can still make time for fun and fun moments together. And Rachel obviously loves to experience things together, so it's cool to see that Jose is open to these things in moderation, but he's open to it too. And because I think out of all the couples, we've seen them do the most type of dates, like from the honeymoon to this, like they've been active together. So that's cool. Another thing though that was highlighted was the fact that Jose needs to listen more. And to be honest, like from the way obviously things are filmed and what's cut and not cut, like it wasn't as obvious to me that Jose is always talking. But I can imagine if you're in the situation, you might feel that way, and perhaps he is. Like I do believe it, but and he obviously admitted to, like, you know, he needs to listen more as well. Like sometimes it's like, oh, just say what you need again. Like don't bother, you know, don't feel bad about it. But at the same time, I think it does showcase, I think a character trait with Jose too is about, like, a lot of things is about him and his control and him wanting to just be about him and what he wants and what he wants out of life. So I would think he would be less inclined to listen because he thinks he probably already has the answer. He thinks what he has to say should go for both parties involved. So I like that Rachel brought it up, and I like that Rachel obviously is very open about like what she wants and needs. And we'll see if Jose kind of follows suit. But some of the major things about this episode with Jose and Rachel was about relationships of the past, you know? So for one thing, we find out that Jose was in a previous relationship for 4 years, and he's saying he strongly liked this person. He did not love this person, and like he didn't mention that he loved her, like his ex. It was a strongly like. I'm like, how can you be in a relationship for more, to be honest, more than 6 months is my thing. Like more than 6-7 months and not have said, I love you. Like to me, I'm like, okay, what are we doing? You know, but let's drag it out for other folks. It might take a while, like a year. You go a year without saying you love this person in a committed relationship, thumbs off. But 4 years and you strongly like this person, and you know, he just said that he didn't see himself married to her, which I can see. You can date someone for a while and probably just not see it. Like he didn't see himself married to her because he really didn't want to be a stepdad. And to me, that's interesting. I'm just so curious about this ex relationship because I'm like, this woman had a child this entire time. You know what I mean? So as the mom, did you not recognize that? And were you not like, okay, well, let's cut things off because you clearly don't want to accept all of me? And then on Jose's side, it's like, yo, this kid is not going away. This kid probably feels that energy that, okay, he doesn't actually really like me or want me a part of his, like, picture perfect storyline of, like, you know, no, I need to be the person who, like, it needs to be my child genetically and all this kind of stuff. Like, again, that control piece. So, yeah, it was just an odd situation for me. And he also revealed that he won't forgive cheating. And Rachel, because Rachel mentioned when they were talking and making the Scrabble coasters, which was a cute idea, by the way, making the Scrabble coasters, he asked more questions of Rachel and like what she revealed, the fact that she cheated in the past. And for her, she was just kind of talking about the fact that she was drunk, it was a one-time thing, she admitted it immediately, and this was on the second year of her then, I think, 8-year relationship. Which sounded a bit like excuses, but if the guy agreed to it and forgave her, then hey, you know, it is what it is. But Jose made it a point to share that he does not forgive cheating. But it's interesting to me because it's not like, oh my gosh, you can see, oh, somebody has a trait for cheating or whatever else. Sometimes you can, but you know, out of the two people in the relationship, I wouldn't have thought it would be Rachel that would be the one. If there were to be cheating, it would be her. So it's curious. It was curious to me to see, like, oh, okay, like this is an interesting situation. Interesting is all I can say for it. Between the two of them, their past relationships, their most significant one, it seems like for the both of them, it seemed very much like forced on their own way. Like, you know, obviously Jose was kind of going with the motions and almost forcing the situation longer than he probably should have. And Rachel probably too, because probably secretly her desires were not with this guy, and revealed itself when she was drunk, but just going through emotions also with that. So I wonder, and I hope it's not going to be the same thing going on in this relationship where they have they're not fully fulfilled in their own way, and they're just kind of trying to make things happen. I don't think that'll be something that will be evident anytime soon, if at all, before decision day, because we also see that Rachel told Jose that she loved him. By around the end of the episode, we see that Rachel actually said the I love you, she said the L word, and Jose said it back. So they are now a couple in love. And I'm like, okay, like this is the progression that we'd love to see, and I think we all felt happening, but I'm still curious as to this relationship overall. I'm not fully there yet with them. So, and I think the whole ex's relationship really helped heighten that for me. I was always a little bit like, oh, I don't know. But they're going with it, and they're going for it, and they're still going forward. So we shall see what happens with them. Speaking of things we shall see in the next episode, obviously around the end of the episode, they kind of teed up some things. And one of the things we saw was that Jose revealed that Rachel called him by a different name. Whew. My thing is, you don't treat a man like Jose like he's not the top shelf. You know, that's not a man that he got an ego on him, okay? / anyone else, if you did something like that to, I'm sure would feel equally turned off. But Jose, he's got an ego, and he's got that need for control. And so calling him by a different man's name, and I'm wondering, like, I'm curious, like, was this in bed? Was this just randomly passing? Like, what happened? That doesn't really give... It kind of adds to my theory of Rachel not fully being fulfilled and going through it. Like, and it's, you know, or just her having that lust for life. And so we'll see I'm ready to see what that's all about. Another thing is that Gil mentioned, I think they were sitting down with Dr. Viviana. Gil mentioned that he would get a divorce, you know, if things were going the way things are going. And I'm like, I don't blame him, but dang, like he is very adamant about saying that. He is saying what he wants. And now it's really up to Myrla to rise to the occasion. And so I don't know if she's going to do that in the next episode, the next 2 episodes, but I hope it starts to register for her that this is someone that she could lose. And so if she really doesn't want him, hey, you know, it is what it is. But I hope that this is something she starts to see, like, no, like, this marriage has contingencies, and it's not all on her. It's also, he's got some things that he needs to. And the last thing that we saw was that Brett was looking very distraught talking to Dr. Viv. I think the whole idea of her being basically in love with homeboy, with Ryan, and him not showcasing very much affection or very interest in her is getting someone like her who's very much into the romance in her feelings. And so we're going to see that kind of unravel in the next episode. But, you know, this series is just getting spicier and spicier, y'all, and I am here and will be here to capture it all. Let me know what you thought about anything that I said, or what you think will happen in this next episode for whomever couple. I'm so intrigued to see. Just comment below, and let's keep this thing going. But thank you so much for watching, for listening. This is so fun to do. Again, you can follow me on my social at Ffriends, and just keep up. Make sure to subscribe just to keep this thing going, all right? But I had such a great time doing this, and until next week, y'all.